Hello, in this video I'm building the third section of my shelf diorama. Without a further ado, let's get to it. So, I start this build with the base. Just like the past two builds, I cut two different styrofoam sheets, one thicker and one thinner. Glued them on each other with hot glue gun, and then started to plan its rough layout. Originally, I planned to make a destroyed building, then changed my mind about it later in the build. Prepared cobblestone pieces from a styrofoam chunk, and then placed them on where the road would be. Someone over Reddit mentioned that the cobblestones were off the scale in the previous build, so with this one, I tried to make them half the size compared to the last one. Even then, they're somewhat big for this scale. But it's quite hard to make them even smaller. I could have simply carved lines over the base to represent a cobblestone road, but I like laying bricks and stones for my buildings, or roads. This entire process took about 2 hours in total with a couple of breaks. After that, I added some carbon granules with two paths leading to the side doors of the building, and sealed them with diluted PVA glue. With more diluted and not diluted PVA glue, I added some small rocks, pebbles, crumbles, and baking soda to add texture details to the base. Painted it all with black craft paint, and then painted the surface with a very dark brown. Next, I painted the road and rocks sticking out from the ground with darker to lighter tones of gray. Once the paint dried, I applied PVA glue and applied my first layer of ground flock, and then added a coarse flock to complete the groundwork. Just like the previous build, I sprinkled weathering powders to create dirtier and used look to it. Sprayed IPA over it to seal the powders and finish the base. For the pair of mechs, I picked up some key pieces from my bin. We'll use these oral hygiene tools for legs of one mech, parts of syringes, dowels and q-tips, plastic bottle caps, lotion bottle caps, some random plastic caps, bases of figures, I usually save them, zip ties, some thin electrical wires, various jewelry beads and bits, cardstock and thick papers, and of course cardboard material. I start with the first mech. I took some inspiration from WW2 era M3 Stuart light tank. I planned to make its turret look like it, and the lower body to be thin and look like it can move faster. Basically making it a lightly armored and more agile mech walker. I start with building the turret out of cardboard. After the first video's mech making, the turret became very straightforward and easy. One of the key features I found from Stuart tank is the elevated section of the turret, where the enter hatch is, so I added that. I built its gun from a dowel end and a plastic rod-like piece. Stuart has a lot of rivets on it. Adding extra panels make the rivet work stand out quite a bit. So I added cardstock cutouts all over the turret. As for the fuel tank to go behind the turret, I used a syringe cutout and covered its open ends with circular plastic. Added cardboard and paper stripes for extra detail around it. After looking at some Stuart plastic models, I realized there was a detail, so I replicated it. Made a machine gun-like weapon to go in front of the enter hatch out of cardboard and q-tip. Once I was done with the turret, I started on the lower body, the section where the turret will be placed on and the legs will attach to. Next, I started working on the legs. As I mentioned before, I wanted the legs of this to look thinner and lesser armored. I used the dental floss sticks for its legs. I glued the cutout sections with a bit of a random angle with the help of CA glue and baking soda combination. Once the glued parts dried, I cleaned off the excess gunk and baking soda with Dremel sanding bits, as much as possible without melting the plastic. And while at it, I did the same over the other completed parts. Then I went back to work on the legs. I glued the last part of the legs and with the help of cardboard cutouts, I gave them their standing positions. Also cut a couple of dowels and used them as extra detail on each leg randomly. Glued them on a platform I made. I used a pair of flossing sticks to add more detail on the legs. I made the exhaust pipe the same way I made before. Right under the turret looked boring and I felt like I could add something there. Instead of armor plates, I added a pair of railing there. Managed to do this with Q-tip cutouts and bent toothpicks. Made a small front light kinda thing out of jewelry bits. Added the leftover tip of a flossing stick as a random detail next to the light. Placed, aligned, and glued smallest beads as rivets. Glued various circular jewelry bits to represent moving parts over the leg joints. I used electrical cable pieces to add extra detail on the legs. People over Reddit criticized the way sci-fi mechs are designed in general, claiming that exposed cables, wires, hydraulic parts, etc. made no sense, as they would be weakness in wartime machines. But hey, this is not real and doesn't need to make sense, so I keep on and will keep on making illogical additions to my creations in the future. Once I'm done with the first mech, I start on the next one right away. For this one, my turret reference is a Sherman Firefly. Unlike Stuart, Sherman doesn't have much, if not any rivets on its turret. Made its gun from a thick skewer, and made its muzzle brake from leftover plywood piece. Sherman turret has a good number of curves on it, which is a challenge for me to make. I sorted it out with applying baking soda and CA glue roughly and then work on the curves with Dremel sanding bits, which worked out fine for me. I built its fuel tank out of perfume bottle caps and cardboard stripes. And then attached it on the back of the turret. Added the hatch detail and various other random details on the turret. I know you might criticize that there are many aspects to this that doesn't look like a Sherman Firefly, but I take certain aspects of a design and then build randomly over that. I don't exactly replicate anything, so don't roast me for it. I cut a thin strip from zip tie and with the help of some jewelry bits, I made an antenna for it. Once the turret is done, I started making the lower body. Just like the previous one, I made a front light. I made this one slightly bigger. I got away from WW2 era here and made its armor protection different. Took inspiration from modern Russian tanks. Made triangular shaped protection for supposedly more vulnerable part of the vehicle. I covered the gaps with baking soda and sealed them with CA glue as usual. And then Dremel sanded the excess. Made the exhaust unit the same way before. This one ended up being bigger since there is more surface for this to be glued onto. With the lower body done, I started working on the legs. Just like the German mech in the first video, I made its legs completely out of cardboard. Made it intentionally bulkier. Supposedly this mech is a heavier weapons platform, so it moves slower and heavily armored, unlike the first one. Cardboard legs give me more space to add bulkier armor details. I aligned them to the position I thought would be good and balanced, and crossed my fingers for a not wobbly result. Glued them on the lower body. And then started working on closing the gaps with more cardboard pieces. At this point, one step led to another. I randomly added details in a symmetrical manner without planning anything really. Once I covered all the gaps and ended up having no other visible option to improve the legs with cardboard, I started adding the circular bits on the leg joints. Used figure bases as armor plates and glued bigger beads on there as if they are big rivets or bolts, keeping that plate on the legs or holding something together. Added rivets here and there, especially over its ankles. It looked like a cool idea to add those there. Before I was done with this, I felt like I should add more over the turret, so I went back to it. Added rivets here and there, glued cardboard cutouts randomly. And after 2 days work, I completed the mechs. Primed them in black, then made a mixture of Revell's olive green, Vallejo green brown and some black paint and diluted it down. Painted them with this mixture in 2 coats. Once dried, I started on painting the details. Painted some parts with anthracite grey, some parts with green brown to bring them up from the rest of the base paint. Painted Sherman's, I don't know what I could call this, some sort of a viewpoint or periscope maybe, in green brown and touched the tip with red for no real reason. Painted Stewart's cables with black red, joint mechanisms with bronze, and diluted gunmetal color around them. I dabbed the rivets with a darker tone of the base color. If you watched or remember how I made Wehrmacht cross for the German Walker, I needed to make a star for these Walkers. Since I can't paint a star all that good, I tried to use a jewelry piece as a stencil but failed. So instead I glued another star on the turret sides. and then painted them in white. I applied black wash on all over the lines, crevices, over and around the rivets, basically wherever I saw fit. Finally, I applied some weathering powders on the gun barrels, lower legs and feet, and as usual sealed them with IPA. For this diorama build, I needed a structure. During the build, I decided that it would be a hotel in like building, so I started making one. I used the usual method of making a basic cardboard box, approximately 6 by 7 by 10 centimeters in size. I wanted its roof to be slanted in 2 different angles, and wanted it to have a flat surface where I could position a prone soldier aiming towards the incoming assault. In order to add detail on the roof, I made a pair of smokestacks out of leftover cardboard. Covered their top sides from the same material. For the shingle work, I decided to make individual shingles this time. I cut cardboard stripes and cut them into smaller bits, as small as they could be, in order to make the roof look scale appropriate. At this scale, it's a madman's job to position and glue all these little shingles. But I kinda got tired of using the easier methods and wanted something different for a change. Took a couple of hours to cut and glue all these, but worth it in my opinion. Also made some roof windows to create some sort of an attic room effect. I cut and glued a piece of thick paper on the roof in order to prepare it for a texture. I covered it with baking soda and CA glue. Randomly glued leftover shingles on the smokestacks to represent stonework. I wanted this section of the roof to have a railing, so I cut thin stirring sticks and glued them around this section. Added triangular shaped sticks on the roof windows to represent closed shades. I sanded off the excess glue gunk with Revell and then glued the roof to the building. Before I started on the styrofoam stonework, I made doors and windows the usual way, using cardboard as a base for stirring stick cuts to be glued onto. To cover the ends and create a door frame effect, I glued cardboard strips around them. Drilled holes on the doors so I could add door handles. Used armature wire to create the handles as usual. Once they are dried, I glued them on the building. One door for each side of the building. For the stonework, I cut off bigger and smaller bricks out of styrofoam as usual. I laid the bigger bricks on the corners and right in the middle of the building, as well as around the doors and the windows, and smaller, thinner bricks over the rest of the building in a bit of a random pattern. For the next object of this diorama, I decided to make a water tower and a groundwater storage unit. For this, I picked up these plastic pieces from my bin, sanded them roughly and glued them on each other. Then, in order to create a conic shape topside for it, I cut off a piece of thick paper, gave it the conic shape I wanted and glued it. Closed the gap with a cardboard stripe, then started making its legs out of thick skewers. I cut the ends of each skewer so they would fit the plastic section better. After a couple of failed attempts, I managed to glue 4 sticks in an upright and evenly aligned position. I cut off thin sticks and glued them in between each leg diagonally in order to make it stronger. Then I glued more sticks in a diagonal position to cover the sides of the legs in order to make it look more appealing. I wanted a pipe leading from top of the tower to the ground level storage unit I'll build later. I made one out of thinner skewer. I basically glued 3 parts together with a bit of baking soda and CA glue. Then rounded the edges with Revell sanding bit and regular sanding paper to make it look like a pipe. Drilled a hole on the tower so the pipe could be glued better. Added a jeweler bit to the pipe for extra detail. For the groundwater storage unit, I'm making a cardboard base for a kinder egg to sit on. The reason I made this is I found the water tower standing by itself looked a bit dull, and this object sitting next to it made a bit of a sense to me. Went back to the tower and added more bits to the bottom end of the pipe, and managed to break it. Glued it again off the camera and finished this part of the detailing. While at it, I found the top part of the tower looked boring, so I cut off another circle and added another conic detail over it. Added riveting detail by using smallest beads. Added more rivets around the tower part of it with circle and cubic wooden beads. Once I was satisfied with the look of the tower, I drilled a hole on the ground unit. Next, I laid bricks all over it and finished with this part of the build. Then I started on the painting. I primed the hotel in black, then started painting the smaller bricks in a cherry red kind of mixture of paints as the first coat. Then applied a regular brick-like reddish paint as the second coat. In order to bring out the cornerstones, I painted them in stone gray and applied lighter tone of gray with a semi-wet brush. Then dry brushed red brickwork with a very light pink color. I painted the shingles a light green. Then applied a diluted darker green all over it. I realized I forgot the smokestack, so I painted them with anthracite gray. And painted the rails with Vallejo US gray. No specific reason for this choice of gray, I just have a lot of it. I painted the doors, windows, and their frames with various tones of wooden colors. And painted the door handles with anthracite gray. Since this was planned to be a hotel, it needed a sign showing that it's a hotel. So I googled random name generator, went to a site and generated hotel names. Decided on the Viewpoint Motel. Made a basic design and printed it, just like how I made one in my medieval tavern build. I cut off the printed designs, glued them on cardboard, cut them out, glued cardboard strips around their edges to create depth, painted the edges with black, and then glued them, one facing the street and one right above the main entrance. Before I was finally done with this, I applied various colors of weathering powder to the bottom part of it. As for the water tower and its ground unit, I primed them in gray. Painted its top part with various tones of gray with 2 coats. Painted its legs in wooden colors. The rivets in metallic colors. Applied a diluted black-red color on the top part as a filter. Added black wash all over the rivets. Applied rust color powder here and there to show some aging and weathering. Painted the kinder egg with a diluted mixture of black red and new wood paints in 2 coats. And the bricks with a random choice of gray. Dry brushed it with lighter gray. Applied black and rust powders over the storage part. And the same mixture of powders I used over the hotel to the lower parts, to make it blend better to the ground when placed on the diorama base. I planned 1 medium and 1 small size of trees for this build. I made these the exact same way and style with the same color of logs as I did with the past 2 sections of this diorama build. For this section of the build, I used Revell's US figures in different postures. I primed them in gray as usual, and painted them with the same selection of Vallejo paints as I did with the previous build's figures, in order to make them look they belong to the same company. In order to add extra details to this diorama, I made 3 wooden crates and 3 dummy crates. I primed them in gray, then painted them with various tones of diluted brown colors with multiple coats, and painted the dummy crates in black. I glued the dummy crates in a randomly stacked position. Then mixed some black paint with diluted PVA glue to work on a tarp to cover it. This is the first time I made something like this. I think I should have used a thicker material like dried baby wipe or a higher quality of toilet paper. It shred right away with the weight of glue paint mixture, but still it ended up covering the dummy crates. Once it dried completely, I mixed Vallejo old wood with black red and diluted the paint mixture. Painted it in 2 coats. Then brought up the highlights with light gray paint. Applied a diluted black red to make it look a bit dirtier. Finally, applied a darker tone of diluted paint as a wash. Once all the elements of the diorama complete, I started putting them on the base, one by one, starting with the hotel. Made sure the water tower is positioned asymmetrically across the road. Placed the fake crates facing towards the side entrance. Planted the trees, making sure they reach to the sides. Placed the real crates by the water tower. And then place the soldiers in a state of alert, getting into a defending position posture as best as possible. Due to the trees and the height of the water tower, it kinda ended up being hard to move my fingers while placing some of them. Place the anti-tank infantry in the middle of the road, as if he'll take a shot right after he spots the incoming enemy vehicle. Then, as usual, added clumps of foliage, dried grass and such in a random manner, to hide certain gaps where objects meet the base, as well as to make the diorama base a little bit more interesting to look at. Before I was done with this, I installed the mechs on the base, steered like one, hiding behind the building, and the other one in a posture of getting onto the road to take on the incoming enemy force. I've put all three sections together to see how it turned out so far. In general, I like the way it's progressing, other than the somewhat small amount of dimensions I picked up for this project. There's only so much space in a man cave. In the next video, I'll make the last section of this project, which will be the second German section, which will have another German mech. I'm planning it to be an even bigger one in size. As a tip for it, it will have a turret that is resembling what a P1000 Rata had. I'll try to complete and upload it as soon as possible. Thank you for watching this episode. If you liked it, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments section. Also, please consider supporting what I do on Patreon. You can find the link for it in this video's description or in the pinned comment. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.